Hey guys, here I have the Kogan SmarterHome outdoor spotlights. They go in your garden and like light up trees, bushes, fences, whatever you want to highlight. They're RGB, they're controlled over Wi-Fi. You can use timers, you can change the colors, you can make them react to music even. They're actually pretty decent build quality too. They're all metal, like even the stakes, the housing and the covers. It's even got glass over the end of the lights here, so it's not plastic that's going to discolor in the sun from being outside. Pretty decent cable here too. It's not like not very thin. In my, I mean, I'm not an electrician, but like they seem pretty overkill for some lights this powerful. So they're fully waterproof connectors here. They look pretty good. They have a little rubber seal on it, so you just kind of like put the light in and use the little screw to kind of bind down on that rubber to seal it in. There are 4 pins on each of the plugs, so one for RG and B. The main thing to note is these are RGB spotlights, controllable, but they're all controlled together as one, so you can't control each individual light. Here we have the lights. There's 3 of them in a pack. There's the Wi-Fi box and the power supply and the cable. That's pretty much it that comes in there in the box. But as I mentioned, like the actual RGB controller is inside this box, so it's just got the 4 pins coming out, like 12 volts RG and B. Comes out straight into the cable and then just replicated to every light, like so every light has the same color. The actual lights themselves, there's 3 RGB LEDs inside each one, and it's not an R, a G and a B. It's actually each light is an RGB LED. They're all just so that the light is a lot more even. I've seen some others that have 3 lights in it, a red, a green and a blue, and when you kind of like shine it against a wall, you can see where they don't exactly overlap. You can see like the red, the green and the blue coming out the edges a little bit, but no, these are very even colored because each light is quite nicely blended. Alright, so as I mentioned, there's 3 lights in the box, but this cable is all just one cable. They're not individually connected, so you go from the Wi-Fi controller down the cable to the first light, and each light comes off the cable just on this molded connection. It's just one long lead with a few connectors coming off it. So that means that the spacing is fixed. You can't get an extension or anything, or you can't even add more lights, because on the last one there's nothing on the end. There's no more connectors. You can't stack. You can't, for example, have 4 lights. Like I wanted 4 lights out the front of my house, but 3 is the maximum. 3 is also the minimum, because you would just be leaving one of these connectors in the garden getting wet, and there's no end cap. If you wanted to have less, you'd have to, I don't know, fill the end with hot glue or something to protect it from shorting out. So it's controlled, I mean it's powered by this one power supply here, one of like kind of like a plug pack transformer wall wart type one. It's a 12 volt 2 amp power supply, 24 watts. which is fine for these lots of LEDs. So I guess that's part of the reason why they don't let you just stack more, because the power supply is not rated for more than the 3 lights. So yeah, you can see it's just 2 pins, the power to the Wi-Fi chip, and then after the Wi-Fi chip it's 4 pins, one the plus positive, and then a line for each of the colors. The actual box, the Wi-Fi box itself, has no buttons or lights on it, so you're not going to have like a little red LED out in your garden somewhere attracting attention at night. And there's no buttons or anything to reset it, so it just means that when you power it on and it can't find Wi-Fi signal, it goes into pairing mode, waiting for you to set it up in the app. So you don't have to go and press a button or anything like that. Alright, maybe we'll go turn it one on now. I'll plug in a light. Okay, and I'll plug in the power. It's actually quite bright. It's a lot brighter. I mean, this is daytime and I've got my lighting set up, like it's not going to compete with daylight, but it's actually quite bright. It's a lot brighter than I had expected from these. It's not so bright that it's going to like blind you or anything like that. You're not going to light up a giant tree that's like taller than your house, but for bushes and just small trees in your front yard, it'll be great. And as you can see, like I said, you can see a little bit of a halo from each of the lights, where you can see that each light is kind of like reflecting a little bit differently inside. But because each light is full RGB, you can't see the different colors bleeding out the edges. So you can kind of see, it's almost like a Venn diagram. You can see one circle here, and then another circle out here, and in the middle is where they all blend. But yeah, so nice even lighting. The actual light itself, so you can adjust it up and down on this spike. It is reasonably stiff. They just have like a little Allen key screws on each side, so you could, if you needed to adjust it more or it came a bit loose, you'd need to get just an Allen key. I'm not sure what size. It didn't come with the Allen key for this, but you might need one if you need to adjust it more than just a little bit. But in terms of construction, it just has these 2 Phillips head screws on the front here. Take those off, the metal faceplate comes off, and then it's just got like a little bit of silicon, like rubber holder around the piece of glass. And you take that off, then it's just the silver reflector, and underneath that it's just a flat PCB with just the surface mount, 3 surface mount LEDs on it. They just, takes in the 4 wires and just runs them straight into the 4 pins of each of the LEDs through a resistor for each color. And then they just stack on top of each other. And at the back, this is just empty. There's nothing. There's a metal plate, kind of a bit of a heat sink to hold the PCB, and then just back here is just empty. There's nothing there. It's not solid. It's just empty. One thing that I forgot to mention was that even though you can't adjust the spacing because they're molded onto one wire, onto one long wire here, they're not individually plugged. You can, however, this main connector here, this 4-pin large connector here, is actually the same as the ones, the Holman brand at Bunnings. So you could grab a 1, 2 or 3 meter RGB extension cable just to get the distance between the power supply and Wi-Fi chip to the first light. So you still can't adjust spacing between each light, but you can get an extension lead from Bunnings to just if your power point's further away than whatever standard length they have here. The lengths between each light and between the power supply are listed on the product page, so check that first, especially for the spacing between the lights. And don't assume that you can just buy 2 of these and just join them together. You'll have to run 2 separate ones from 2 separate power points, unless you wanted to, open yourself up and cut the cords and try and crimp them together yourself. Alright, thanks for watching.